trying so hard to understand comprehension, do these 9 things instead. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you better ways in reading comprehension. Number 1, focus on exposure. A lot of times when you're about to read a text, all you're thinking about is how to understand what you're about to read. That is a wrong way to go. In doing so, you put yourself under pressure. Rather, you should go with the mindset of exposure. If you're writing an exam, you also need the mindset of exposure. This will help you not to create a perspective earlier without understanding what the text is all about. If you read with the mind of getting exposure of the writer's intention, then it is easier for you to get the context. However, if you go with the mind of understanding, you might create an impression or a perspective that the writer didn't create. When you read a text at first for exposure and you still didn't understand what the writer was trying to convey, all you have to do is to read it again and again and again. Before long, you will understand everything the writer is trying to say. You might be asking, what if I'm writing an exam? You still need to go with the mind of exposure. This way, you have an open mind. You just want to know what the writer's intention is. And by doing so, you get to understand what the writer is trying to say. However, if you go with the mind of understanding, you will want to understand too quickly. This will make you struggle or put you under pressure. If you don't understand what the writer is trying to say, read again. And if you're not writing an exam, read again and again to gain clarity. Number 2, preview or scan the text before reading. Skim through the titles, subtitles, the bold or italicized words. These give you an idea of the context. Read the introduction and the conclusion. Most times, a great deal of people do not always like to read the introduction or the conclusion of a text. This is very important as it gives you an idea about the book or comprehension. Number 3, highlight or take note of important points. I will advise you to get 2 markers or pens. I will recommend you get 2 different colors so that you can use one to highlight things that are unclear and the second one to highlight major points. Number 4, go at your own pace. I see a great number of people trying to hurry whilst reading a text. You are not in competition with anybody, and everybody is different in assimilation. So what you have to do is to go at your own pace. If you're writing in an exam, read exactly the way you can understand the text. However, if you're not writing, take your time to know the exact hour when you tend to assimilate the more. For instance, I personally like to read in the morning hours. This time, I get to assimilate easily. However, I can read in other hours of the day, but these morning hours is the peak time for me. So understand how it works for you, the time you can easily assimilate. If you're writing in an exam, know how it works for you and apply this whilst you're writing. Number 5, meditation. Create a mental image about the context, the event. Meditate on what you're reading. Now, when you meditate on what you're reading by creating images and creating scenes in your head, it helps you to remember what you have read and also help you to understand what you are reading. This way, if you're writing in an exam, it will help you to answer the questions. Take time to meditate on what you're reading. Number 6, break down complex sentences. For example, when you're reading and you seem not to understand a particular sentence, all you have to do is to look for familiar words around that paragraph to get the context of that very sentence. This way you will be able to understand what the word means. Also, if you come across a word that you don't understand, do the same thing. For instance, if you come in contact with the word acquainted and you don't understand what it means, look around or read the paragraph to understand the context. This method is applied when you're writing an exam. However, if you're not writing an exam, simply get a dictionary instead of assuming. When you make assumptions, there is 90% chance for you to be wrong. Number 7, answer these WH questions. Who, why, when, where, and how. For example, who is the author of this book? In answering the question, you want to know why the author always writes. When you know the author of a book, especially if you're conversant with authors of books, you will understand their intentions for writing. Secondly, what do I think this book is all about? In addition, why am I reading this? Number 4, where and when might this take place? This helps you to answer and get understanding of the test. Number 8, practice reading regularly. This way, you get acquainted or familiar with words, phrases, sentences. The more you read, the more vocabulary you come in contact with. And if you're familiar with vocabulary, it is easy for you to understand any comprehension or test because the words are not new. You just flow because you are used to these words. I'd like you to know that it is very important you expose yourself to a lot of books, tests, comprehensions, especially morally accepted ones. This way, it will help you to become a better reader and a better communicator, as reading helps you to build your vocabulary. It helps you to be understood and also understand others. Reading is a skill that everyone should partake in. The fact remains that the difficulty we face most times was reading are because of the vocabulary used in the book. Now imagine if you're familiar with these vocabulary and phrases, you would just understand the text, comprehension, book, or whatever you're reading easily. The last one for today, broaden your vocabulary by reading more often. With this, we have come to the end of this video. I believe that you got value. Do well to like, share, comment, and subscribe to our exquisite channel. I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.